In this tutorial video, we're going to look at integrating your automation framework into Test Modeler. Rough agenda, we're going to start off by looking at how Test Modeler generates code. We're then going to import an existing template to get started. We'll generate some code and track the changes we need to make to get it to work in our framework. We'll update the code templates. We're going to test the changes. We're then going to connect into Git and publish our source code into there. And finally, we'll link up the automation execution. Let's jump in and take a look at how Test Modeler generates code. Now, everything in Test Modeler is driven off code templates. If you go to Workspace Configuration and then go to the Code Templates tab, you'll see we have all of our automation frameworks configured here. And what this allows us to do is to bundle together page object templates and code templates which define the test cases to be produced. If we look at something like Java Selenium and look at the page object, you'll see here we've got the template for creating a new page object class with the packages. In this case, we're looking at a Java template. And we've got the different individual functions for performing a click, sending keys, selecting from a drop-down, etc. Next one we can look at is the test cases. So we'll look at our test case template. And very similar, we have our overarching class. We've got keywords in here which represent other templates which are being embedded inside. So in this case, we're going to start our test case region, which is going to embed our methods. And then we've got the various test logic, which is going through calling functions, etc., etc. Now these templates are customizable. Whenever we generate anything in Test Modeler, this is what's used. And if you click Show Documentation down here, you'll see documentation for what each of these tags does within Test Modeler. Next, we're going to look at importing an existing template. Now, in this tutorial, we're going to be using a Java Selenium framework that exists in Git already. And this is a fairly standard framework. We have page objects within our Java class here. And we've got various test cases that can be embedded inside our package here. Now, the best place to start when embedding an automation framework into Test Modeler is to start from something that exists already. Now, within the Curiosity Software Island GitHub repository, you'll see that we've got many frameworks that have already been added, and we have code templates that exist for them already. The best place to start is to come into an existing automation framework and go into download the code templates that exist for that particular one. So we're going to download the page objects and the test cases, and we'll just open those up, save these to our local hard drive. Now, once we've got those downloaded, we can come into Workspace Configuration, and we're going to import these templates. So we're going to scroll down to Code Templates, go to Import. The first one we're going to import is the page object. So we're going to call this Integration Tutorial, just so we've got a reference point to open it. We're going to import the test case one as well. So we'll import our test case, put that on the end, hit Import. And what you'll see is that these have been added into our code templates here. We can open them up and take a look if we want to. Now, the next thing we're going to do is construct a framework. Now, this is going to be our Java Selenium integration tutorial framework. We're going to select the page object that we just imported and our code template that we just imported as well. And we're going to build out this framework. We're then going to hit Next. We're not going to include a Git connector for now, but we will come back and do that. And at the end, we'll add our automation execution. For now, our primary focus is going to be getting these code templates spot on so that any code we produce from Test Modeler can be directly integrated and executed in our automation framework. So we'll hit save here, and we've got that one down here, nicely put there. And the final thing we're going to do is just create a new project. So we're going to call this our Java Selenium project for our integration tutorial. And we're going to select our framework here, which is this one. And we're going to hit save. We can now come into the Explorer screen and we can start to generate some assets. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is generate some code, track the changes, and update the code templates in Test Modeler. So the first point of call is we're going to be updating our code templates for our page objects. So we're just going to come into this login page here, and we're going to navigate into our Chrome extension, which we're going to use to generate our page objects. And we're just going to open up the project that we're in, hit the scan button, we'll select the attributes we're interested in, we'll stop scanning, and we'll just upload these directly. As so. Now, if we come into our modeler here and go to components, see we've got our new folder of the scan, we've got the code. We're just going to download this code here. And this is obviously going to use the template that's already in there. Now, we're going to just save this code. And what we've got open already here is our automation framework inside IntelliJ. So we're just going to be working directly in the framework to get everything working and upgrade our code templates. Now we're going to paste our page object into the folder where we want our page objects to be stored, which is in here. Now if we take a look in here, we have a number of warnings that have come up. The first one is that our base class that we're using here does not include a WebDriver. It's getting that from our capability loader. So we've got a bit of a problem here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to come out and we're going to remove our driver statement here. And our page objects don't need to take a WebDriver on input. Now we're going to come in and mirror those changes in our code template as we're going through. So we'll go down here, open up our page object template, and we're just going to remove that in here as well. So we don't need that. We don't need line 21 either, and we'll hit save. Now the next thing is you'll see it's talking about this test modeler logger. Now we've got two options. We could either go through and we could remove this from our template, which would be simple enough. We could come into each of the places where it's referenced, like in our click here, line 11, line 21, same for all of our actions. And we could come through and we could remove it. We're actually interested in including the test modeler logger in this case. Now we can get the test model logger from inside this reporting folder. So this has got some helper functions in. So we're going to come in and just pull down the test modeler logger, and we'll utilize this within our framework. So we'll come in, we'll save that, and we'll copy it in. Again, for other frameworks, there will be other helper functions available that you can pull down. Go back into our framework here, and we'll just put it under the utilities folder. That exists, and you'll see that's pretty happy in there. So let's come in now and let's import that class, and what we'll see is that everything is happy now. We do have an import statement here which isn't working, and this one as well. So we'll remove those two imports. We've got our new one here, which is this one. So we'll come up, we'll just copy all the packages, all the import statements. We'll go back into our code template here, and we'll just paste that in. Now what we've done is, as we've gone through adjusting page object here to be compilable, we've gone through and updated the code templates in Test Modeler in tandem. Now if I come in and I rebuild our framework here, hopefully what we should see is that everything works, and we'll see this is built successfully, which is great. Now if we come back, what we're going to do is we're going to delete this that we just edited, which is fine. We'll come back into our Explorer screen. Let's go back to that page object here and let's regenerate it by hitting this regenerate button. What we'll see is that we get our Java class back, and it's obviously got the updates in that we made to that code template. We're just going to save that in our download folder here. We'll put that there. We'll open this up, paste it into our framework as so. And what we should see is that we do not have any error messages here. So if we do a rebuild, what we'll see is that this has been built successfully. Now any code we now generate via the scan process will now generate code that can automatically run within our automation framework. Now the next piece that we're going to come off is we're going to edit our test case template. So we've got the page object sorted. We're now going to go in and do the same for our test cases. So to do that, we're going to create a new model. We'll call this our login process. We'll come out and we'll open that up. and this is obviously going to be a very simple model because we just want to get some tests running. So I'm literally going to come in, add a start block. Sometimes it's best just to create a linear model in this case, so you've not got too much complexity. So we're just going to literally come in, enter an email, and we'll just give a direct email here, which will be James Walker at google.com. I'm going to click the sign in button, and before that we'll just enter and go to the URL. So we're just going to have a linear model here, and this just reduces the complexity, the amount of rework we have to do. So we've got our model, we'll hit generate, got a path, that's fine, and then we'll come off and generate an automation code. We'll see that's complete, and we'll just download it. Now, if we show this in our folder, and we just do an unzip here, what we'll get back is obviously our source code. Okay, so we'll take our generated file here and we'll go over to our framework and we're going to paste it into our test folder. So now what you'll see here is that we've got a few challenges. The first one is we've obviously got some import statements missing. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to pull in our testng listener. We're not going to be using extent report in this case. We already have our test modeler logger that we imported before, so we'll just import that. So firstly, let's go in and let's include the testng listener. So we'll come back over to our Git and we're going to include this testng listener. So we'll just save this one. And we're also going to include this get screenshot helper, which is just a little helper function to go and get screenshots, which is called by our testng listener. Now for other frameworks, there will obviously be other pieces that you can include, but we're just going to pull these two in. So we'll copy these, come back into our framework, include these in the utilities folder, as so. Okay, if we come back to our test case here, we're going to include the correct testng listener, which is that one. Okay, and the next thing we need to do is we just need to change this pages one here, and that should be page objects is the class. Include that, that's fine. And the final one here is we do not have a driver that we're going to initiate our page objects with. Now we're going to come in and we're going to fix this in our test case template. So we're going to copy all the imports and includes. Let's go back over here. Let's go to our workspace, configuration, code templates. Let's go to our test case for our integration tutorial. And we're going to correct our automation test here. The next thing we need to do is change the way we're constructing our object. Now by default, we had a driver in here. We're not actually passing a driver anymore. It's just going to be an empty constructor. Now we do not have that template defined, but if we come in here and add a new template, we can select one which is initialize page object template, which is the code snippet for initializing new objects. If we hit the add button and we go to show documentation, we've got some tags here. We can specify our code gen object type, specify our variable name that's going to be assigned by test modeler, and we're going to create a new instance of this object type, and we're going to have an empty set of parentheses which we're calling that constructor with, and we'll hit save. This code snippet here is going to be used for generating 27 here where we're constructing a new object to be utilized. Now the final piece we need to do is actually come in and change the base method that's being used for those pages. If I come down to the code template here for the page object and go to show advanced, you'll see we can change the default package that's being used for that page object. So we'll come out and we're going to change the default package to page objects. Here, hit save. Now if we come back into test modeler, we go to our components, we go to our customer login, we do a regenerate, we look at the linked module, we'll see we've got the path here, pageobjects.customerlogin, which is pretty crucial because that's going to set up the path correctly. If we now come in and do a generate here and we generate our automation code, Let's go back into the framework. Let's delete what we have already, which is this one that we just updated. Let's now download this and let's integrate this source file into our framework. So we'll just unzip this, put it here, open it up, go into our framework, paste that into the test folder here, click OK. And if we do a compile here, you should find is that everything compiles correctly. Now, if we come out and we go into the TestNG listener, you'll see there's two pieces here that we care about. There is the API host and the API key for our connection. If we go into Test Modeler and we go to Profile, you'll see that we've got an API URL. We can put as our API host. And we've also got an API key here that we can copy and we can paste into our key. This is going to be used for uploading run results when we perform an execution. So if we come in now and we select to run this test, we go off and it's going to spin up our Chrome driver, which is part of our framework. And then what we hopefully should see at the end is a success message. And you can check to see whether it managed to upload the test modeler run results. So here we've got test success and it uploaded the path back to test modeler. So if we come back and take a look and we go into our model here and we just refresh the test suite, what we'll see is that we've got the run result here that's been uploaded back from test modeler, which is great. And we've also got our various logging messages and screen captured, which has come through from our TestNG listener. Publishing our automation to Git. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is come to Profile, go to Connectors, and set up a new Git connector here. So we'll come into our list and we're going to look for our GitHub connector, which is what we're connecting to. And we're going to give our profile here, which is going to be our Java integration tutorial. We then need to give our connection settings. So I'm going to give settings here to connect with. We then need to give information about the repository and the branch. So this is the repository we're going to be connecting to. And the branch that we're going to be connecting to here is the main line. So we'll put main. We can then hit the validate button. We'll see that's been successful. Or hit the save button. So if we come into our workspace, go to configuration, code templates, and we're going to edit our framework here that we've been working on. We'll come into our source control, we'll select the one that we've just done. And then we need to specify. Okay, now what we're going to do next is come over to our configuration and we're going to go into our framework here and we're going to change the Git connector to go into our integration framework. We're going to specify where we want our page objects to be published to, which is going to be within our Java page objects folder here, and then we're going to specify where we want our tests to go, which is going to be inside our source, test, Java, automation, test, hit save. And we'll see that we've got both of those present here. Now, if we come up and we go to Explorer and we go to Components, if we hit the Regenerate button up here and then we go to VIP Executor and look at the jobs, we'll see our page object commit is complete. We can view the various messages as it's gone through cloning the repository. If we come in and take a look at our GitHub project and look at the commits, see that we had one that was made where we have committed the customer login class here that has been generated. We can also come into our model here, generate, we can execute generating our automation code. We can select a commit to Git, we'll execute that. And what this will do is it will go off and it will add that file and push it to Git as well. So if we come off here, come back and look at the commits and do a refresh, we'll see that we've got our tests for model login also committed here, which should now be executable in our framework. The final piece we're going to look at is integrating our automation execution into Test Modeler. Now the final piece here is we've gone back into Edit Framework and we've specified settings for executing our automation. Here we've given the location of Maven because we're running Java automation on the machine where our server is going to be running. We've also specified some execution parameters here to specify which test case to run and the command for running the test. So if we come into our model here and we hit run, and we come off and specify our execution, I'm going to specify test modeler execution and hit execute. What we'll see now is this is going to go off and it's going to commit our files, which is fine. And then if we take a look here, what we should see is that on the execution server, our tests are now being executed. And we can open up that corresponding job and we'll see our tests being compiled and hopefully eventually they'll be run. And we'll also see here we've got a test success message come back. If we go back to our model and take a look, we've got the test passed here and we can come in and we can look at the results as so. Thanks for watching this video.